Hello. In this week's Torah portion, Pinchas, we hear the story of 5 unmarried sisters. Their father, Zelophehad, died and had no sons to inherit his land. They went to Moses and asked him to be allowed to inherit it. The daughter's tribe, Manasseh, was not opposed, but said they then had to marry within their tribe, so the land would not end up in the tribes of their husbands. Moses consulted with God, and God decided the daughters would both inherit the lands and marry within their tribe. So they married their cousins. Immediately afterwards in the Torah, we read about who will lead Israel after Moses. Quote, "The Lord said to Moses, ascend these heights of Abarim and view the land that I have given to the Israelite people. Then you will die, for you disobeyed my command to uphold my sanctity in their sight by striking the rock instead of talking it to bring water." Moses said to God, "Let the Lord, source of the breath of all flesh, appoint someone over the community who shall go out before them and come in before them, and who shall take them out and bring them in, so that the Lord's community may not be like sheep that have no shepherd." And the Lord answers Moses, "Sing aloud Joshua, son of Nun, an inspired man, and lay your hands upon him." End of quote. Why are these two stories next to each other? The Midrash answers, quote, "Why did Moses make this request right after ordering that the women should inherit? Simply this. When he saw that the daughters of Zelophehad inherited the properties of their father, he thought, this is the time for me to make my own requests. If daughters inherit, it's also proper for my sons to inherit my glory." But the Holy One, blessed be he, said to him, quoting Proverbs, "He who tends a fig tree will enjoy its fruit." Your sons sat idly and were not involved with Torah study. It is more appropriate that Joshua, who served you, serve Israel and not lose his compensation. End of quote. So, Moses' sons were not sufficiently meritorious. The mantle of leadership passed to Joshua, a disciple of Moses, not to his sons. But what happened to Moses' sons? Moses had 2 sons, Gershom and Eliezer. They were not part of the Exodus proper. While still in Egypt, Moses had sent them off with their mother Zipporah to their grandfather Jethro in Midian. After the Exodus, they joined their father in the desert. This is the last mention of them in the Torah. Their descendants are mentioned much later in the book of Chronicles. Quote, "The sons of Moses were Gershom and Eliezer. The sons of Gershom were Shebuel the chief, and the sons of Eliezer were Rehaviah the chief. Eliezer had no other sons, but the sons of Rehaviah were very numerous." Unquote. So Moses had a lot of descendants. We just don't know who they are. They disappear from history. The Talmud adds, quote, "From where do we derive that all of God's promises are fulfilled? From Moses, our teacher. God said to him, 'I will make from you a mighty nation.' This promise was fulfilled, as it is written, 'The sons of Rehaviah, Moses' grandson, were very many.'" And Rav Yosef taught in the Baraita, many means more than 600,000. Why? Because it says here, the sons of Rehaviah were very many, and it is written in the Exodus with regard to the Israelites in Egypt, and the children of Israel became numerous and multiplied and were very many. And the Torah says that the children of Israel were 600,000. Note that 600,000 is about 2 to the 19.2. Assuming every descendant has 2 children, it therefore takes less than 20 generations for one person to engender 600,000. We also learn that King David appointed Moses' grandson as his treasurer. Quote, "And Shebuel, the son of Gershom, the son of Moses, was ruler over the treasuries." Now, did Gershom's line descend into idolatry? The book of Judges, which begins after Joshua's death, says, The children of the tribe of Dan erected graven images for themselves, and Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Menashe, and his descendants served as idolatrous priests to the tribe of Dan until the land went into exile." Unquote. The Talmud enlightens us. Was Gershom the son of Menashe? No, he was the son of Moses, Moshe. But his actions were not like those of Moses, his father. So they added a nun to connect him to Menashe instead. Moshe, Menashe. Why Menashe? The Talmud says, although he was the son of Moses, he acted like Menashe, the wicked king of Judah who was notorious for idol worship. So the verse linked him to Menashe. Rashi adds that the extra nun is raised above the line. Quote, in deference to Moses, the letter nun was included, thus altering the name. It is scripturally suspended to indicate that he was actually not Menashe, but Moshe. We have the raised nun in the Aleppo Codex, dating from the 10th century. But one wonders, what does the raised nun accomplish? If anything, it brings attention to the fact that Moses' grandson descended into idolatry, which is what the nun attempts to hide in the first place. Perhaps it is there precisely for us to know the story as a warning to take the education of our children seriously. Also, if the written word hides, why did the sages reveal? Besides, like all humans, biblical characters have flaws, which the Torah not only mentions, but frequently highlights. So what is the lesson here? The Jerusalem Talmud offers another explanation. The hanging nun is meant to teach the power of teshuvah. If Jonathan, son of Gershom, repents of his idolatry, then he will be considered like a son of Moses. But if not, he will be considered like a son of the idolatrous king Menashe. In this approach, Jonathan has no biological links to either Moses or Menashe. Back to the sons of Gershom were Shebuel the chief. Why the plural when only one is listed? Is the other son, Jonathan the idolater, not listed to erase his memory? Unlikely, because the same is done for the child of Gershom's brother Eliezer, who was not recorded as idolatrous. The Talmud says that Shebuel and Jonathan were the same person who repented. Quote, when King David saw that money was excessively precious to Jonathan, he appointed him as director of the treasuries of the temple, as it is stated, and Shebuel, the son of Gershom, the son of Moses, was ruler over the treasuries. And was his name really Shebuel? Wasn't his name Jonathan? Rabbi Yochanan said he is called Shebuel because he repented and returned to God, Shav La'el, with all his heart. Unquote. The Midrash adds that Jonathan only took up idolatry as a job to survive. Quote, the rabbis expressed surprise. After Jonathan became a priest to idolatrous worship, how could he have lived so long? There are some 200 years from the judges to King David, because he tried to discourage idolatry by shaming those who engaged in it. One cunning fellow asked him, why then do you sit here and serve idols? He replied, I'm paid for it, but I despise it. When King David heard of him, he sent for him and said, do you, the grandson of so righteous a man, practice idolatry? He replied, I have received this teaching from the house of my father's father, Moses. Sell yourself to idolatry rather than be dependent on your fellow creatures. David said to him, God forbid, this is not so. What it means is sell yourself to a service which is foreign to you, that is, which you consider to be below your dignity, rather than depend on your fellow men. Indeed, the Talmud says, quote, Rav said to his student, Rav Kahana, skin a carcass in the marketplace and take payment if you need money, but do not say, I'm a great man and this work is beneath me. The Midrash continues. So David saw Jonathan's love of money and put him in control of his treasury. They say that after David died, Jonathan returned to his evil ways. Why the relapse? The Jerusalem Talmud says that was because when King David died, King Solomon replaced all his ministers, including Jonathan. So Jonathan was again out of work. It includes the amusing story. Quote, a man came to Jonathan and asked him what offering he should prepare for the idol. Jonathan said, go prepare and bring to me 1 dish of fine flour and place upon it 10 eggs. Then put it before the idol, and he will eat from all that you bring, and I will appease him on your behalf. As soon as the person would go on his way, Jonathan would eat the foods himself. End of quote. This brings up the question, should one take legal but ethically questionable jobs out of necessity, like Jonathan? Should one take advantage of people's gullibility, arguing that if these people feel good afterwards and everybody's happy, there's no harm? To complicate the story, the Mechilta tells us that Moses agreed to have idolatrous descendants. Quote, when Moses said to Jethro, give me your daughter Tzipporah as a wife, Jethro answered, if you do what I ask you, I will give her to you as a wife. Moses said, what do you ask? Jethro replied, your first son must serve idolatry. The following sons may serve God in heaven. Moses accepted. Jethro said, swear. And Moses swore. End of quote. Why would Jethro make such a request of Moses in the first place? Jethro says in the Torah, now I know that the Lord is greater than all the gods. Hearing that, God himself told Moses to welcome Jethro in Judaism with great honor. One answer is provided by Rabbi Shimon Schwab from 20th century Europe and the US. The Midrash says that Jethro worshipped all existing idols and concluded only God was real. Quote, Jethro said, I have not neglected to worship any idol in this world, but I have found no gods like the God of Israel. Unquote. So Jethro wanted a grandson to do as he did, worship all existing idols and conclude that only God was real. This would give him a better appreciation of monotheism. To be sure, this is a dubious interpretation of the injunction to teach Torah to your children, Veshinantam levanecha, and you will teach it to your children. Perhaps since Gershom lived with his grandfather Jethro in Midian for a long time, Jethro's bad influence indoctrinated him into idolatry. Later, when Jethro converted to Judaism, it was too late to turn Gershom around. Moses' other son, Eliezer, was younger and was not irrevocably influenced. One may wonder, is this why Moses at first did not circumcise Gershom and God threatened to kill him, as his wife Tzipporah had to do in his stead? Quotes from the Torah, the Lord met Moses and sought to kill him. Then Moses' wife Tzipporah took a sharp stone and cut off the foreskin of her newborn son. So God let Moses go. Unquote. Perhaps Moses intentionally did not want Gershom circumcised because of his promise to Jethro. Early on, Judaism struck a balance between hereditary rights and meritocracy. Priesthood and kingship were hereditary, prophecy and scholarship were not. The Mishnah says, quotes, Rabbi Shimon said, these are the three crowns of there are three crowns, the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. The Rambam adds, Aaron merited priesthood, David merited monarchy, but the crown of Torah remains for anyone who wants to be crowned with it. Aaron got a hereditary dynasty to last forever, the Kohanim. But Torah scholarship is not hereditary. It belongs to all of us. The Torah states, Moses commanded us the Torah as an inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. Another question arises from this narrative. The Torah says, this is the line of Aaron and Moses at the time that the Lord spoke with Moses on Mount Sinai. These were the names of Aaron's sons, Nadav, the firstborn, and Avihu, Elazar, and Itamar. But only Aaron's 4 sons are listed. Moses' sons are not. The Talmud says Moses' nephews are considered as his children because he taught them Torah. anyone who teaches another person's son Torah, it is as if he fathered him. The Midrash adds, Rabbi Natan said, Moses was saddened that one of his sons did not stand in his place. Whereupon the Lord said to him, are the sons of your brother Aaron not like your sons? So Moses taught the sons of Aaron, but not his own. Why? The Torah that he preached said, Veshinantam levanecha, and you will teach it to your children. Does teaching other children replace teaching your own? Or perhaps it is better to let others educate your children on the grounds that the teacher-student relationship is fundamentally different from the parent-child relationship? Finally, a disturbing question to which there is no definitive answer. Are the children of important and charismatic people doomed to a life of mediocrity, wrongdoing, and irrelevance? It is true that in many cases, important people have little time for family and that their children suffer for it. There are examples and counterexamples. Sadly, Moses' children are an example. Shabbat Shalom.